Hey everyone, nobody here. Warlock's Incinerator Snap feels so good to use, especially when it causes ignites. A few people have taken stabs at creating sick builds around it with great results, and today I'm advocating for one of the few melee exotics I haven't seen paired with it yet, Necrotic Grips. If you're not familiar, Necrotic Grips adds a poison damage over time effect to any melee, including ranged and uncharged melees. If something dies with the dot still applied, it also spreads in a burst, similar to how Volatile works. It lasts a surprisingly long time, around 20 ticks, so you can expect anything below champion level to cause a mini epidemic. They're often paired with Thorn, since the poison effects are one and the same, and therefore Thorn spreads the bursts at range. While that's nice, that's not where I'm going with this. Instead, we're doubling up on dots. Incinerator Snap deals a lot of Scorch stacks, which also carry a dot component. 1 snap, 2 damage over time effects. While anything below champion level will cause an epidemic, anything above can be abused to cause chain explosions. Maybe that doesn't convey the whole situation. Snapping makes 5 homing firebolts that will each scorch and poison. Here, a better example. Nice. Nice. Very nice. As you can see, you can snap a group and watch them fall like dominoes. It feels good. You can also snap at bosses for very good supplemental damage. Necrotic Grips has a modifier against bosses that almost doubles the damage, and bosses tend to live long enough to actually ignite. If you equip Ember of Ashes and space appropriately for all 5 firebolts, you can hit them on a single target, so you'll stack enough Scorch for an explosion in one hit. This is especially efficient on big targets like Colossi and Ogres. But that's not all. If you want to take your Poison Snap Warlock to greater heights, you'll want Monte Carlo. I really love this gun. It shoots good, it sounds good, it builds good. You get Grave Robber plus Swashbuckler in Markov Chain, and landing hits restores melee energy. Kills have a 1 in 4 chance for a full melee recharge. Snap an Idiot, and get Markov Chain times 5 to have 65% bonus damage. I know that many people, including myself, don't like having to be in the air as a Solar Warlock in order to recharge, so the melee regen from Monte Carlo allows you to keep your boots on the ground. You'll also proc Radiant from Ember of Torches so that 165% damage goes even further for no extra cost. With Monte Carlo, you can chain snaps to ignite high health targets while keeping them poisoned. This build eats champions for breakfast after the initial stun. The key is to find the appropriate spacing so that the tracking on Incinerator Snap gets as many hits as possible. That way you can trigger and chain ignitions thanks to the Fragments, which are Torches for Radiance, Ashes for Scorch stacking, Char for scorching ignitions, and Eruption for larger radius ignitions. Char and Ashes are must-haves here. Ashes is a 50% bonus to Scorch stack applications, which allows you to potentially ignite in one snap when all the firebolts hit a target, and Char actually seems to apply Scorch to the target that ignites as well as what's around it, making chaining ignites an excellent ammo-agnostic damage strategy. Don't forget that they'll still be poisoned the whole time. The loop is simple: snap, apply Monte Carlo until snap is recharged, and repeat. Your special and heavy slots are free spaces, so you can really tailor this build to any situation. A quick side note, 1-2 punch shotguns do not affect ranged melees, but you'll still be applying poison with uncharged melees if you want to go for it. Now that we've covered the what, let's go into the how a bit. The first section is Subclass. You'll find that since the snap is the focus, subclass choices are relatively free too. I like running solar nades to supplement Scorch stacks on big targets, so I run Touch of Flame to make them last longer next to Heat Rises, so that I can fire Monte Carlo from the air. If you want more immediate damage, then Fusion Nades are right there. Starfire fans, stay winning. Well of Radiance fits my playstyle more than Daybreak on top of charging much faster, so that's my super. And for class ability, I like the immediate cure from Phoenix Dive more than Rift, since this build likes to stay mobile. I already mentioned Fragments, but again, that was Torches, Ashes, Char, and Eruption. If you don't have Monte Carlo, or just want to use a different exotic, then Searing with a Scorching Weapon is your next best choice. I would replace Eruption with it. Still not recommended since Monte Carlo is so good. but then again, so is the Callus mini tool. Next is mods. If you want to make your abilities loop into each other, Solar Grips with Impact Induction will give you grenade energy on melee hit. It's not huge, but it helps, and Solar Armor works well for your combat mod options. You'll probably also benefit from having an Arc Helm so that you can use hands-on for super energy on melee kills. This one is surprisingly effective, given how many melees you'll throw out. As far as stats and stat mods go, Resilience, Recovery, and Discipline are great. Strength won't make a big difference since the melee regen comes from Monte Carlo, which covers that very well. Another thing to note, since Monte Carlo is a primary exotic, ammo finder mods will proc more often, so if you want to have ammo on hand, that is something you can definitely take advantage of. Moving on to combat mods, you definitely want to slot melee Wellmaker regardless of what you do, and most likely bountiful wells besides it. You'll make 2 solar wells per powered melee kill, which you can use as an engine to proc various effects. One setup I tried was all in on making wells to regen energy for myself and allies. In addition to the previous 2, I slotted in Explosive Wellmaker, Elemental Ordnance, and Well of Ordnance. Essentially, every well I made gave me 6% grenade energy, and I always made 2 at a time. It wasn't quite Sunbracers, but I was able to throw out Touch of Flame solar nades very often to back up my poisonous flame snaps, both for ignites and crowd control. Next, I tried a more defensive setup with Melee Wellmaker, Bountiful Wells, Well of Life, Seeking Wells, and Font of Wisdom. While I did enjoy having a Well of Radiance on hand more often, Well of Life's healing just isn't enough to be worth it to me. It really can't compare to Restoration or even Cure. If they ever buff it though, this could be a winner. Finally, I decided to use a hybrid build to chain my snaps. This one is my current preference since it really ties the build together. Melee Wellmaker, Bountiful Wells, Elemental Charge, Heavy-Handed, and Well of Ordnance. With this setup, every melee after the first gives you half price on your next. It makes ignitions on big targets a breeze, and loops into itself beautifully since melee both charges you with light and cashes those charges out. Don't forget that Solar Wells will partially recharge your abilities on pickup as a bonus, in addition to the recharge from Well of Ordnance. I will say that this build is a bit of a glass cannon. There isn't much healing aside from your super and class ability or even running healing nades, so you have to be a bit cautious of what your movement is, but the power, fantasy, and damage output are well worth it. I'm hoping that at least one other person gives this a try, because it really draws everything out of Necrotic Grips, which haven't seen too much spotlight time despite how long they've been on the scene. Now watch as these bosses chain explode. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see you around.